Hey, what's up guys? This is Johan, and on this video we'll be doing the update for the 2018 Rico's Nano Tank Challenge September update. Alright guys, so it is September and it is the 9th month, 9 months strong this tank has been going. I haven't had any really big crash per se. I remember a couple months ago I did have a little bit of that kind of flagellance bloom. The aquarium, though, it's still been getting little dinos here and there, but for the most part the tank is looking awesome as far as all corals are concerned. The corals are just massive. Like this weekend I posted a picture of my frog spawn, the one that's up front, and the picture of my hair. For those of you guys, I didn't really say it, but I think Ed knows about it, that I did a little internal challenge where I want to see how long my hair would grow in a year, and I started just about the same time as the Nano Tank Challenge. So just looking at like that picture, I'll put a little one, show a picture of what I posted on Instagram, and that you feel it right here, it's almost the size of my head. It's like half the size of my head, so about 5, 6, 8 inches or so. And that coral, I remember I started off with the two heads. I cut them up from the main display and put them in here, and then basically overnight they split, and I wasn't expecting them to get as much heads as they did in that short amount of time. I know 9 months is a long time, you know, you could get a baby in that time, but for me it feels like a short time, because like I say, I've been in this hobby for almost 5 years now, and I've never had coral growth like this. So it's just basically exploded. The this coral here, the frog spawn up front has 8 heads, and the one at the back has about, I think, 6 or 7 heads now, and then all the other corals are just exploding in growth. The Montiporos, obviously those are really fast growing corals, but I never thought I would see the fast growing growth, like I said, because I've had so much failure as a reef hobbyist as far as growing corals, that this tank just lets me know that I do know what I'm doing. And it's maybe that in the past I had maybe too much fish and I had too much elevated nutrients, so like maybe high phosphates, high nitrates. Another thing with this tank that I had a bit of problem with was my green hair algae. I did have a bit of problem with green hair algae, but after I took down the 75-gallon Nano, I basically put all the cleanup crew that was in there into this tank, and they basically took care of all of that. It wasn't that much of a cleanup crew because I was dwindling down where the cleanup crew basically dies off, and I was supposed to restock, but I never really did get a restock. So once I shut the 75-gallon Nano down, I put all the crabs and all the snails in here, and it's basically about 5 blue-legged hermit crabs and 1 white-legged or 1 regular hermit crab, and then some Astorina snails, some of the regular different snails that's in the tank, and I just let them be, and then some baby snails as well that was in my sump. I took some of those out and I put them in here, and they basically keep the tank pretty much clean of all algae that's on the rocks, except for the algae that's on the glass. They don't really do a good job on the algae that's on the glass, but as far as the algae that's on the rocks, that's all clean, all gone. So yeah, the cleanup crew for what it is, it's not that. It's not that big for a 20 gallon, but they are just the right amount. So I have to go back in there and count each and every one just to know how much I have. Another thing that has been constant with this aquarium since I set it up was my other type of cleanup crew, and those are my bristleworms. They are everywhere in the tank. For the most part, most people say they are bad, but for me, as far as I'm concerned, they're doing an awesome job of taking care of any food that's left around. I don't have any fish in here right now, except one of my new additions, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I don't really feed the tank. Well, I do feed the tank. I feed the tank because of the crabs. I don't want them to eat the snails, so I do throw in just a pinch of pellets every 2 or 3 days, just so the crabs can have something to munch on. But the bristleworms are in there, and you just see them pop out, and they just keep the sand bed, always keep the sand bed turned over. Like, I don't see any algae on the substrate. There's no brown spots on the substrate, so I know that the bristleworms are taking care of the substrate. I do have 2 of the snails that just pop out of the substrate once you put food in the tank. So I know my substrate is being cleaned by the bristleworms and those 2 snails. And besides just the substrate, the bristleworms also clean every part of the rock. And there's one right now coming out, and they don't really bother the coral that much. They're just in there cleaning the tank. So anybody that has that bad taste for bristleworms, they do their part as well. It may just be that you might see a bristleworm eating a fish that's on the sand bed, and maybe that fish or that coral is on its way out, and that bristleworm is basically just taking care of business. Alright guys, so the next thing I want to talk about is my newest addition, and that is a dragonface pipefish that I recently got. It was, I think it's been in my tank about 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks now, and I got 2 of them actually from Petco. And when I first got them, I was really excited to get them, and then once I got home, I was like, wait, I got a pipefish. That was a bad idea. It was one of those, you see something that you want and you get it. And I wasn't in any position to buy any fish, so I thought that buying a pipefish would be, something different from what I usually get. And then once I got home, like I said, I was like, wait, I bought a pipefish, and I didn't do proper research. I know of pipefish, and I know how to keep some pipefish alive, and I know how to keep like seahorses alive, but I didn't want to get seahorses because you have to constantly feed them. So I thought pipefish are a little bit better, and dragonface pipefish actually take care of pests. So I wasn't really too worried about them feeding, at least in the tank, because this tank is overpopulated with pods. Like couple pods are everywhere in the tank, and those tiny trickle pods and stuff, they're all over the tank. So I'm not really too worried about the pipefish having a source of food to eat, but for the next 2 or 3 months. But in the future, I was wondering how I'm gonna take care of that pipefish. And what I started doing, I ordered 3 different things to feed the pipefish. So I ordered the instant baby brine shrimp. That's this one, and then I also ordered some brine shrimp eggs that's not hatched yet. So I'm planning on doing a hatchery. I think this one is just it's unhatched. It's an egg. So these ones you can't hatch them, but there are some you could actually have a hatchery for. So it's been taking a liking a little bit to this, but more or less to this one. Well, this is the empty package. It's this right here, so it's the same thing that you see. I'll put a link in the description to it. So it takes a real liking to this, and every time I put it in the tank, within 5-10 minutes it starts swimming around and pecking at the rocks and all on the glass. So, and the one last thing I also got was some roe. This is like ROE. It's basically what you call those oyster eggs, real oyster eggs. So I put 1 or 2 drops of those every couple of days, and it seems to like it as well. At least it gets the feed-in responses on that pipefish one. Another thing it does is also every time I feed the baby brine shrimp and the reel, I get explosion of pods. So I know I have some pods in the back filter here, so every time I do feed, I see explosion of growth of pods the next day, so I know that the pods are also feeding on that as well. Yeah, so that was the pipefish was what I added, and it was a rookie move for me just to go out and buy a fish just on a whim. I saw it and I wanted it. I should know better than that. I should always do research, and I always advise anybody who buys a fish or is planning on buying a fish to do research. But it was just one of those fish that I wanted, and I had a little bit of knowledge, but I could have done better research. Now, I had, like I said, before I had 2, and 1 did pass away, and I thought maybe I wasn't, they weren't feeding or something, but the other one, like I say, has been with me for 3 weeks, and the other one died like 4 days after I got it. And I also I had it from the last update, but I kind of try to hide it a little bit, because like I said, I bought it on a whim, and I didn't want to put it out there that I bought a fish and I didn't know how to take care of it, which I did not, but I didn't want to just put it out there that I bought a fish and then a couple of days later it died. So 1 did die, and I'm not sure 100% why, because they both were eaten, and this one is eaten and it's actively feeding, going throughout the tank, searching for copepods. And whenever I feed the tank twice a day, once in the morning and then once I get home, and then on my off days I might feed the tank 3 times. And it's only because the tank is so small. I would like to do more of a larger feeding, but since it's such a small tank, just once in the morning, once in the night, and I think that it's even too much. But because I have so many bristleworms, I don't have to really worry about my nutrients spiking through the roof, because the bristleworms just come out and eat everything that goes on in the tank. So for the most part, guys, this 20-gallon Nano has been doing an awesome job, even with the new addition. I think the pipefish is probably the best fish that I could have gotten for this system, because it's such a low maintenance fish. The other fish I would like to get, but I would not put myself in that situation. It would be getting a dragonet or a mandarin goby. I would love to get a mandarin goby if I could find one that is raised on weaned off of live food. If I could get one of those, that would be awesome. So just like how this pipefish is able to eat the reel and the baby brine shrimp, at least I could feed it prepared food. So if I could get one of those mandarins, I would put it in here, because they don't move as fast as any other small fish. There's nice little fish that cruise around, and something look interesting. I like the interesting look of this tank, where have the rock work with all the corals growing and doing their own thing, and then I have the bottom corners with all the LPS that do their own thing, and then the pipefish that swims around really slow, doesn't really mess with any of the corals, and then the crabs and the snails, and even the little bristleworms going through the sand, and they're just working away. So it's a nice little tank where, like Billy Pipe said, I could come up, just put my nose to the tank and just glance and see how everything is doing, and just enjoy it. Another thing I have noticed in this tank, which I do have a lot of besides the bristleworms, are some vermeted snails. I think they call those snails that's built in the little tube and they come up. I have one that's right here, and it's about half an inch, or actually about an inch long. I'll do a close-up of that, where the vermeted snail is just long, and I never really broke it off. I've seen some on the corals, some behind the corals, and I just left them alone, and they don't seem to bother the corals that much. The polyps that they grow over, they probably grow over a polyp, but they don't really sting the coral. So I just left them alone, and I think they're a nice little addition to the tank. Where at least the plan that I'm having with the tank, where I have corals that I filter feed in, and then I have a pipefish that's going behind little stuff, and then I have those vermilion signals, which are also filter feeders, and I have a few little a few little feather dusters that's all around the sand bed that I got from the 75 gallon. So I am also thinking of getting the bigger feather dusters to have in this tank. So it'd be a nice little a nice little basically filter feeder area in the system. So at least if I could overfeed, I have extra filtration. I'm also planning on getting a clam. I do have a clam in here. It's one of those, I don't know where it came from. It probably came on the coral when I had the 75 gallon. I did show one where I had a weird little clam that was on there. So that clam, I don't know where it came from. I just probably bought the coral. It was probably a little little larvae, and it ended up in my system. But I have a clam in here, and it's thriving. It's not any like designer or any Duras or anything. It's just one of those regular little clams, more like an oyster. I remember a few months ago I did a video of the different fish that I may add, like firefish and different stuff like that, and I am starting to go back on that. I may just keep what I have right now. I put more of like filter feeders and stuff like that, so it's more of like a species tank, mainly coral, but I kind of still do want one fish that is interactive and would swim around here. I was thinking of getting some clownfish, but I did get some, and they are in the 10-gallon office tank, so I will not be getting any. Oops, sorry about that, guys. I had a little bit of a head stop. Anyways, yeah, I was saying that I had some clownfish that I just got, and I put those in the 10-gallon Nano office tank. And if you guys haven't seen that video, I'll put a link right here, or a card, or here, or wherever. I'll put a card up there so you guys can go back and check that video out. But I was thinking of clownfish, but I don't want to put any clownfish in here because they can get aggressive once they start laying eggs. So I'm trying to think of what fish I could put in here. I just want one small fish that is very interactive. And I'm trying to think. I may put those called the hogfish, or the flame hawkfish, the one that perches on the rock, so it kind of also blends in and the whole personality of this tank, where everything is chill, laid back, and they're growing on their own different way. Besides just that, I'm noticing all the coral growth, all the corals are exploding. Like for example, this little aqua I have right here. Remember, I had a little frag, and then I broke it up into multiple different frags. One's here, and then I have a frag right there. And I also took the other ones and have them in the 10-gallon Nano, because the two frog spawns are getting so large that they basically start stinging all the corals around them. So I may have to start fragging the frog spawns. And all the plating monties I put on there, this one right here is starting to plate out on its own little plate. So there are 3 plates right now. I don't know what they'll call plate chews. Just making it worse. But yeah, this Monty right here is really showing a lot of growth. I remember when they first put it on there, all the front area of it that's facing me was white, but now it's all covered, so there's no more white, and it's starting to plate out. Then I have a green plating Monty and another orange plating Monty that's right there, and they're starting to merge together. So I think they are starting to battle each other, because I see white on one. So they may be battling each other, or they may just merge together and graft. That would be nice if they graft together, but if not, if they're starting to kill each other, I might just have to take it off the rock and reposition those. And then my first 2 Montipars, these right here, these are just encrusting. One right here is encrusted all over the next rock around it. It's starting to grow up and towards the light. And then I had some Pavonia corals. Those are really slow growing corals. So I do see where they encrusted on the rock, and then they just basically stop. Then I have the main muzzle that's here. I fragged it up a little bit, and it basically came back over itself and come back to the same size. So I remember when I fragged it, I fragged it to about a dime size, an inch in diameter. Now it's back to 2 inches from where I got it. So I feel like I shouldn't have fragged it in the first place, but per the rules, it had to be under an inch every new frag. And then these two Forest Fire Digitata Monties that I got, those are completely encrusted on the base, and they start to base out and go all the way down to the bottom of the rock. And now they're starting to encroach on the frog spawn tentacles, so it's probably going to start getting stung. So I have to start fragging the frog spawns. So what that will allow me to do is basically maybe cover the whole side of this rock and the other side that's been empty with just frog spawn polyps. And then I have a little hammer that was here, that was the main display. It had 2 heads that was all connected, so I couldn't really cut it. I was like, let me leave it, and then once it's split properly, then I could cut it. So now it's split into 3 heads, so I'm gonna go ahead and start fragging it and put maybe 1, 2 here, and then I have this big torch that's here, and then this other torch that's here as well. That will start off 1 head with the orange polys at the back, and they're starting to not encrust, but grow into each other just the way that I wanted, so it could go back to that original coral. I'll put a little video of what it used to look like before, so I'm happy that that's happening. And then if we move down here to this polyp little frag section I had, it was orange polys, but now I only have 2 orange in there. 2 or 4 orange, only the brand new heads are orange, and then the ones that are older, they have a greenish yellow kind of tint. Move up from there, you can see that there is another frag of the acropore. I'm not sure what this acropore is as well. I have a few frags, but like I said earlier, it's basically green polyps with a purple skin, and the older sections of that coral has a much darker green, but the areas where there's not that much polyps, it's like purple. So if anybody knows what that coral is, you guys can let me know. Like I said, it's purple and green. The younger or the newer growth with less polyps is really purple, and as it starts to grow polyps around that area, the skin begins to get really dark and green. Alright guys, so that pretty much wraps it up for this entire update of the 20 gallon Nano Rico's Reef Tank 2018 September update. Like I said, the tank is doing awesome. All the corals are looking really nice. I had maybe 1 or 2 coral loss, and that was the blue symposium coral that I had, and I'm not sure what happened. It just withered away. But all my hard corals, all the LPS, are doing just fine. LPS and SPS are doing fine. I don't think I have any soft corals in here at all. Oh yeah, my zoas and my polyps are doing fine. And then I have one other thing that's in here I forgot to mention. My anemone that was back here, the rock flow anemone, it went from here to this side, the back side, and that was because I started feeding a whole lot, so it moved to the back side, and now it's on the, oops, I scared the pipefish. It's on the back side right here, so it's just moving around. I wanted to bring it to the forefront of the tank, but I just left it, let it be. No, but for the most part guys, this tank has been doing awesome. And I want to thank everybody out there with a big tank or small tank that has been very, very, that shows all the work that they're going through and every little bit and bob, because that helps me, and I know it helps not just me, but it helps everybody else in the surfing community who is starting up brand new or is just having a hard time in the hobby. So I could always go and do some proper research as far as like, how to take care of a tank and stuff. So as far as 9 months for this tank, is doing awesome. So if you guys like this video, go and hit the like button down below, and also remember to subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one.